Well, if the last video was vaguely bedheadish, this is full-on bedhead, and that's because I am still in bed. I've been woken up by a rather upsetting text from a friend, so my mind is racing, thinking about it, and I thought, oh well, make hay while the sun shines. Okay, perhaps not the most apposite of metaphors, given that it's pitch dark, but nonetheless. So, I thought, in keeping with this idea that I'm going to record videos when a kid asks me a question which I think is of value, I'm going to give a lesson based on a question which a child asked yesterday. So, here's firstly a little exercise. I'm going to say a number, and I'd like you to repeat the number. Now, clearly I won't hear you doing it, but I'm fairly sure you're going to get it right. So the number is 706 2230. 706 2230. Repeat the number. And if you are fairly typical, I'm willing to bet that you got it perfectly. You were able to repeat it. And before I get to the key lesson from today, what this demonstrates is the human capacity to perform what's called echoic memory. Echoic memory is the ability literally to echo the very last soundbite that we've heard. And it's often how we record numbers, and it's often how we take dictation. Someone will speak to us, and we essentially go into a passive loop in which we're not actually thinking about what's going on, but we're simply repeating the data because of this sound echo memory system that we've got going on. Okay, so let that thought about echoic memory exist so that when I give the main lesson, it can link later. So yesterday, a child asks me, I'm sorry, sir, what does the word paraphrase mean? I don't know what paraphrasing means. What does it mean to paraphrase? And I said, well, it just means to say the same thing in a different way. And when you say the same thing in a different way, it actually achieves a great deal. Now, I often tell the students when I give presentations, at the free presentations I give around the world, one of the very commonest bits of advice that I give academically is that when you're taking notes from a teacher or a textbook, you should always change words, never change meaning. Always change words, never change meaning. Then I ask them, what have I just said? And almost inevitably, they say, always change words, never change meaning. Which, of course, is very funny because I've literally just told them to change the words, but they haven't. Because they've used their echoic memory and they've echoed the sound. Always change words, never change meaning. And the snag is that this echoic memory is not a long-term memory process at all. It's not designed to be. It's a simple thing that the mind can do so that you can reproduce the last sound that you heard almost perfectly. But it doesn't last. The real snag is that it gives the illusion that you are paying attention to what someone else is saying. I'm sure you've had this experience when a friend is telling you a story and they say, he just doesn't understand my feelings and it's so hurtful and blah, 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 blah. And you zone out. And then they suddenly say, what was I saying? And you suddenly say, he just doesn't understand your feelings. You can spit back the last soundbite that the person said. But this is the problem. You're echoing. You're not actually thinking. You're not engaged. And that's quite right. You're not listening. If they ask you, and what did I say like 4 minutes before? You'd just be like, you don't know what the person said prior to that. All you've done is echo the last thing. And that's the problem with echoic memory. It's not designed to last long. So depending on what research you read and the certain circumstances under which you're echoing, it lasts between 30 seconds and 2 minutes. For instance, what was the number I gave you? And I'm willing to bet that you're thinking, oh, there was a 7 and there was 0, and I think that 2 somewhere in there. But your recall has gone from perfect to dreadful. Almost everyone who's watching this, because echoic memory is not long-term memory. Now, this is why when I say always change words, never change meaning, it's a very easy bit of advice, but it's deceptively powerful. Because when you change the words and yet retain the exact same idea within the words, it forces you to think about the content of what's being said. And in forcing you to think about the content of what's been said, you take it away from simply echoic processing of the data, which isn't really much processing, to a thoughtful, active way of thinking about what's going on. So that's one of the reasons that I suggest taking notes. It's not even because you're expecting to be tested on that work later. It's actually to force constant concentration. So always changing words, never changing meaning, immediately takes your listening to an active space, which is very useful. There are a few other reasons that this is handy. The one that you may already have thought is, well, it makes it shorter. For instance, paraphrase is a much quicker way of saying always change words, never change meaning. That's handy. And there's a third benefit to always changing words, never changing meaning, and it's this. I'd like you to change the following. If I say that the sun is essential for life on Earth because it provides light, which allows plants to photosynthesize, and then foods exist, the food cycle starts because there are plants for animals to eat, and the animals can be eaten by animals. When they die, they feed the plants, blah, 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 the food cycle starts. Reword. I'm sure you can do it easily. It's like, the sun, the light, the food cycle, animals, munch, munch, boom. You could do it easily. Now, please reword this. Any negative experience undergone by an infant is automatically split off into two subsidiary egos from the central ego. The first being the antilibidinal ego, the second being the libidinal ego, the former corresponding to the rejecting component of the object experience, whilst the latter corresponds to the exciting component of the experience. The antilibidinal ego suppresses the libidinal ego, whilst both are simultaneously suppressed by the central ego in an effort to ward off any acknowledgement of negative object experience or pain. Now, can you reword that? I've asked that of thousands of students, and no one has been able to reword it yet. And well, they say, ego. Now, why can you not reword it? And people inevitably say, it's because it was too fast. You said too much. That's absolute nonsense. So I'll prove to you that that's nonsense. Now, I'm very tired because, as I say, look, it's not even the gloaming. It's the full-on dark. So I'm tired, but I'm going to try and do my best. If I suddenly say, oh my word, I really, really wish that I could sleep a lot better because I suddenly got this message in the middle of the night and it woke me up and I'm all stressed and I'm thinking what's going to happen with my friends and I hope that it's okay, but it's okay because I'm sure that things will actually work out and I've got my dogs with me and I really love my dogs and they're going to look after me. No, I'm throwing loads of words at you at exactly the same or higher speed. You can reword that easily. Paul wishes he had a better night. He didn't sleep well because the text woke him up and now, but at least he got his dogs which give him comfort, whatever. Now, the idea is you can reword that easily because you understand it. If you're in the habit of always changing words, never changing meaning, when you're taking notes from the teacher of the textbook and you suddenly find, I can't change these words, that means you don't understand what's been said. And at that point, you have to ask the teacher, I'm sorry, ma'am, what's a Gini coefficient? Excuse me, sir, but I don't know what socioeconomic inequality is. And then once you've clarified the meaning, your mind is then able to grab the idea, picture what's going on, follow, etc. Okay, so paraphrasing, the idea of changing words but keeping the meaning the same, forces you to think, it evaluates your understanding of what's going on and often summarizes too. Okay, everyone, hopefully I get back to sleep. No, it's not just one long dog. There's actually one dog here. And another dog there. Oh, my sweet little puppy. I love you, my girl. Have a lovely evening, everyone. I hope you're sleeping better than me.